صلوات على محمد وآل محمد.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
Assalamu alaikum, brothers and sisters. We'd like to welcome and thank you all for coming to our 5th night of our Muharram program. We will be starting with the Quran recitation by Brother Ali Juma, followed by our lecture and majlis with Sheikh Aous Asfar. And unfortunately tonight we will not be having Fatima Najdi reciting poetry. So after Sheikh is done speaking, that will conclude our program, inshallah. I ask that you all please, from the back, please move forward. We like to fill up the front rows as fast as possible, so please everyone, more than welcome to sit on the front rows. Thank you. And before we begin, I'd like to make a few announcements. The ICA, along with the Ashura project, are striving to feed those in need this Muharram. So they have a food drive. We have a food drive going on. The boxes are outside the hall. You may donate any canned or boxed foods in there, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward those who donate, inshallah. The ICA is also having a free childcare services on the 3rd floor if you take the elevators upstairs. Parents and guardians have to drop off their children and pick them up. That will be from 6:15 to 9:15 every night during our program, inshallah. And also, on Friday, October 13th, we will be having a Blanket of Hope event in honor of our beloved Imam Hussain alayhi salam. We will be creating Thai blankets and gifting them to children with cancer. If you would like to sponsor that event, please contact us directly or find a UNI member before or after our program. We appreciate your generosity. And if you would like to sponsor an event, or sponsor our program, rather, for all of our nights of Muharram, any night you would like to sponsor, please contact us either directly messaging us, or you can email us at unitednetworkofislam@gmail.com, or you can confront one of our UNI members directly, either before or after the program, please. And on behalf of tonight's sponsor, I ask that you all recite Surah Al-Fatiha for the beloved Hajj Mustafa Hazimi after a loud salawat, inshallah.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
And now help me welcome Brother Ali Juma for our Quran recitation, a loud salawat.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. عليكم السلام.
صلى على محمد وآل محمد. صلى على محمد. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. إذا وقعت الواقعة ليس لوقعتها كاذبة خافضة رافعة إذا رجت الأرض رجا وبست الجبال بسا فكانت هباء منبثا وكنتم أزواجا ثلاثة فأصحاب الميمنة ما أصحاب الميمنة وأصحاب المشأمة ما أصحاب المشأمة والسابقون السابقون أولئك المقربون في جنات النعيم ثلة من الأولين وقليل من الآخرين على سرر موضونة لا يصدعون عنها ولا ينزفون وفاكهة مما يتخيرون ولحم طير مما يشتهون وحور عين كأمثال اللؤلؤ المكنون كأمثال اللؤلؤ المكنون جزاء بما كانوا يعملون لا يسمعون فيها لغوا ولا تأثيما إلا قيلا سلاما سلاما وأصحاب اليمين ما أصحاب اليمين في سدر مخضود وطلح ممدود وظل ممدود وماء مسكوب وفاكهة كثيرة لا مقطوعة ولا ممنوعة وفرش مرفوعة إنا أنشأناهن إنشاء فجعلناهن مكارا عربا أترابا لأصحاب اليمين ثلة من الأولين وثلة من الآخرين صلى الله عليه وسلم على محمد وآل محمد.
Sant brother, thank you for your wonderful recitation. We now will be moving on to our lecture and majlis for tonight with Sheikh Aous Asfar. Please help me welcome him with a loud salawat.
Find a way to reach. صلوا على محمد وعلى محمد. Now before we get started, if everybody could just move up please, it's a lot easier for me, that way I don't have to project my voice as much. Ahsan Sayyid. When you do this, you're showing a lot of rahmah towards me, because I have to go to a second majlis. I want to be able to make sure that I still have my voice by the end of the Ashura programs. So, or at least the last Ashura program. Okay? The last thing. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. ثانية على حب الحسن والحسين. ثالثة على حب فاطمة الزهراء على أصواتك. صل على محمد وآل محمد. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. صلى الله عليك يا سيدي ويا مولاي يا رسول الله. صلى الله عليك وعلى آل بيتك المعصومين المظلومين. صلى الله عليك يا سيدي ويا مولاي يا أبا عبد الله الحسين يا رحمة الله الواسعة ويا باب نجاة الأمة ما خاب والله من تمسك بكم وأمن من لجأ إليكم سادتي يا ليتنا ثم يا ليتنا كنا معكم فنفوز والله فوزا عظيما. Salutations upon you, O Messenger of Allah. Salutations upon you and upon your immaculate oppressed progeny. Salutations upon you, my master, Aba Abdullah al-Husayn. We wish we were with you, for us that would have been the greatest of victories. Ya Ghareeb, Karbala, say it with me. Ya Ghareeb, Karbala, Ya Madloom, Karbala, Ya Shaheed, Karbala, Ya Ghareeb, Karbala, Ya Madloom, Karbala, Ya Shaheed, Karbala, estranged on the land of Karbala, oppressed on the land of Karbala, martyred on the land of Karbala. Assalamu ala al-Husayn. All together. Assalamu ala al-Husayn wa ala Ali ibn al-Husayn. Can't hear you. Wa ala Ali ibn al-Husayn wa ala awlad al-Husayn wa ala ashab al-Husayn wa ala alladhina badhalu wajhahum dun al-Husayn rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Salawat. قال الله تعالى في كتابه الكريم وقوله الحق. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala states in the Holy Quran, and what he says is the truth. In the chapter of the Tawbah, chapter 9, verse 105, Allah says, وَقُلْ اعْمَلُوا فَسَيَرَى اللَّهُ عَمَلَكُمْ وَرَسُولُهُ وَالْمُؤْمِنُونَ وَسَتُرَدُّونَ إِلَىٰ عَالِمِ الْغَيْبِ وَالشَّهَادَةِ فَيُنَبِّئُكُم بِمَا كُنتُمْ تَعْمَلُونَ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in this beautiful verse, He says, say to them, the messenger, he says, say to them, do the righteous deeds. Amen. For Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His messenger and the mu'mineen, in reference to the infallibles, the imams, they will see your deeds. And then you will be returned on the day of judgment to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah says, وَسَتُرَدُّونَ to whom? To عَالِمِ الْغَيْبِ وَالشَّهَادَةِ. Allah who knows the unseen and all those things that have been testified and witnessed. And then He will tell you what you did. Sadaqallahu alayhi wa alayhi. Now this verse will be central to our lecture today. And you'll see how, inshallah. But first, what I'd like to do is I'd like to do a quick kind of review and introduction. Review of where we left off, an introduction of what we're going to do today, inshallah. And then I'll give you the structure as I normally do. So we ended up then, yesterday, reaching to the point that submission is really where we need to be, right? We showed that Iman, faith, is connected to yaqeen, to certitude. And we spoke a lot about certitude yesterday. Right? We said that there are several types of certitude. And then we said that we can't have iman without the certitude. Then after that, we said that the Imam al-Sajjad alayhi salam, in his Dua Makarim al-Akhlaq, because we said if we want to understand the Imam al-Hussein and understand what truly is his legacy, then we need to look towards his son. His son, whose words literally changed the nation by awakening their hearts, their qulub. He taught them how to do self-talk. Those who are unfamiliar, you have to have in your library a Sahifa Sajjadiyya, the journal of du'as written by Imam Sajjad, Imam Zayn al-Abidin alayhi salam, the son of the Imam Hussein, as well as Risalat al-Huquq, the treatise of rights. Honestly, I really don't believe that as a parent, or as an older brother, or even as a younger brother, or an older sister, or a younger sister, that if I know a Sahifa Sajjadiyya, and I know Risalat al-Huquq, that there is no way, I tell you, that I would not share it with anybody else. Why? Especially if I'm a parent, in sharing it with my children. And in using it every day in my everyday life, because it is literally a journal. It's like the Cliff's Notes to the Holy Quran. Right? It really helps you understand how the self-talk is supposed to be. Because we remember we said in, I think, the second lecture or the third lecture, we said that the most important thing to Allah is that we go back to Him with qalb salim. إِلَّا مَنْ أَتَى اللَّهَ بِقَلْبٍ سَلِيمٍ, Allah says in the Holy Quran. The most important thing is that we come back to our Lord. How? With a heart that is purified. Salim means that it's in good shape. Meaning that it doesn't have sins in it, right? It doesn't have those spots of darkness that we were talking about, because we worked hard on filling them in. Now, to understand how to fill them in, we need Sahifa Sajjadiyya. Why? Because to be a mu'min, to be a believer, and we'll talk about the definition of mu'min in a minute. To be a believer, what did we say? We said we have to kind of pull ourselves out of our own bodies, have a traffic cam look at our lives, right? And then see what are the possible pitfalls and where is it that I'm lacking knowledge. And if I don't know, then let my team around me who has the same goals, because remember, we're going to do what? We're going to surround ourselves with positivity. We're going to surround ourselves with people who have the same goals that we have. And so if we do so, then what happens is each one of us is going to feel that sense of responsibility towards the other. We mentioned yesterday that the Prophet says, you are all shepherds, you're all responsible for your flock. Right? We mentioned that Imam Ali alayhi salam, he says, want for your brother or your sister, your brethren, what you want for yourselves. Right? So we know that these are what? These are objectives. You know, when you start a company or you go work for a company, the first thing that they do is they tell you what their mission is, and what their vision is, and what their core values are. Right? Now, big business, it took them many years to develop the system, by the way. We had the system 1400 years ago through Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Right? The vision is what? The vision of Islam is to ensure that we all end up in heaven, right? And live in eternal bliss. The mission is to ensure, A, that everybody knows it, B, that we start with ourselves, C, that we make sure that we are factors of action. We are not passive in our behavior, rather we are active in our behavior. There have to be deeds that reflect our state of faith. That's what we were talking about yesterday, really. So today what I'd like to point out is a very important point. And that's one, we need to look at Iman, but understand that you can't look at Iman just by itself and what supports it as yaqeen. Because at the end of the road, your deed is a reflection of what you know, right? Remember how we said when someone acts out of a whim and they're asked, why did you do this? What do they say? Say, I don't know. I just did it out of a whim, right? I don't know. Am I right? So we said the way to change the I don't know is to surround yourselves with people that do know. Just like when you play basketball, you need to be playing with people who are better than you in order to improve. And we gave the example also of having coaches who are mentors, who are directing you, right? And literally drilling you. Telling you, these are the exercises you have to do every day. You need to do them this way. Not the way you think is best. Right? Because you know, in the learning process, you can have the playbook, right? You can have the playbook. You can be one of three. You can be the person who doesn't know that the playbook exists, right? And is okay with that. And just goes on with life. Just saying, you know what, whatever comes my way, I'll deal with it whenever. Right? Without being well prepared, without having a strategy. Or you can be the person who knows that the book exists and you search for it and you find it, and then you're either one of two people. You're either of those who follow it or don't follow it. Now, if you don't follow it, it'll exactly be like that guy who has the playbook on the team, right? But is completely annoying to the rest of his teammates and his coach. Why? Because what does he do? He's a hot dog. He's a hot shot. He doesn't want to follow the playbook. He wants to run his own plays, right? It's exactly like the person who has a GPS in his car, but never listens to it. So he still gets lost. Even though he has a GPS in his car, he still gets lost, right? How ridiculous is that? Or a person who is always distracted. He knows he should listen to the GPS. He listens to part of it, right? But doesn't listen to all of it. That might sound familiar to some of us, right? Because what do we do in lectures? We tune in a bit, and then we tune out of it. Why? Because we're so busy with our daily lives. Or we attend some lectures, we don't attend all lectures, because we figure, you know what, if I attend a lecture, at least I attended. But if the lectures are connected, right, then that's a problem for you, because you come and you learn what? The information from where? It's like holding the rope from the middle, as opposed to starting from the beginning and pulling, right? You don't know what was before, right? You're being told of what's coming, but you're not sure what's coming because you might not be able to attend the rest. So for those who are like that, I advise you, make sure you listen to what was before, okay? And if you can't come, listen to the YouTube channel, right? So that you can stay apprised of what is coming up, okay? So that you're not the person who listens to the GPS sometimes, and then, it doesn't say, well, I heard this part, this was good, I benefited from it, but I'm not getting this part. I have a dark patch here, right? Remember how I talked about the dark patches, right? The dark patches are what we need to fill in, right? So, all right, and then we said you have that person who, he knows of the book, he follows the playbook, he does all the drills, he comes to the practices, he does everything the coach asks. Unlike the other guy who comes late, right? Or comes midway through the practice not knowing exactly everything that needs to be done. And then when the coach asks him to do something, he doesn't really do it, with conviction, right? Or he does it his way. So he gets what? He gets punished, right? He gets punished by his own ignorance. That's one. Two, and then he gets punished by the coach, or the assistant coach. And then he gets punished by whom? By his teammates who ostracize him. Am I being accurate or no? Hamid, what do you think? Right? Okay, so the next thing that's important to talk about then is understanding how is it that I can then know what I need to do, right? What Allah expects of me. Because I've reached the point of submission. Okay? I've said, yesterday we left off saying, look, Allah, whatever you want of me to do, I will do. Whatever commands you give me, I will follow. Right? Whoever you place in my way, you determine should be my coach, I will follow them. The Prophet, I follow them. The Imams, I follow them. Right? And so then I have to say, well, okay, I have to follow them. I have to follow them, right? But I know that following them has to be how? Has to be like that guy who's that diligent, that a student of the game, right? They understand that in order to be successful, to be able to hit the target, reach the mission, right? Reach the vision, follow the mission properly, they have to have all the core values in place, right? So that every action that they do is what? Is juxtaposed against the core values. You get it? Okay. So in companies, they tell you that if your actions don't match with your core values, or don't match with your mission, if they contradict, then you should drop them. You shouldn't do them. Right? And this is what Islam is telling you too. So yesterday we spoke about leaving things behind. Right? We said you have to, exactly like you shed those tears. And we said those tears, each one is a symbol of regret. Right? An objective that is unfulfilled. Now you shed those. What you have to do is now each tear becomes an action item, right? I have to move forward and do something new, and I have to start with the now, we said, which means I have to live in the present now. But the question is, now, how is it that I get there? How is it that now I can be aware? We said you do self-talk. Alright. But I want to understand, is the self-talk enough? And you know, Sheikh, you tell me to do self-talk, but how do I know if my self-talk is effective or not? That it's a reflection of iman, of faith, or not. That it's the reflection of my yaqeen, or not. Right? And it's very, very simple. And Imam Ja'far as-Sadiq alayhi salam, he narrates. He gives us a really beautiful hadith. And this hadith is really the measuring stick. Okay? This hadith is the measuring stick. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. He says, Al-Muslim man aqarra bideenillah. He says, a person who's Muslim is a person who says, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah. Okay? He says, Al-Mu'min, the believer, right? Man amila bideenillah. Right? He says, Man amala bideenillah, that's the mu'min. Meaning then that an imam in Dua Makarim al-Akhlaq, when he starts off that paragraph, he starts off, the first thought is what? Allahumma balligh bi imani akmal al-iman. Oh Allah, so he starts with iman. Let my iman reach the highest levels of iman. And then he ends with what? He ends with what he's asking for with niyyah. He says, وَانْتَهِ بِنِيَّتِي إِلَى أَحْسَنِ النِّيَّاتِ وَبِعَمْلِي إِلَى أَحْسَنِ الْأَعْمَالِ. So he starts with iman, it ends with amal. So if I want to be a mu'min, Brother Mahmoud, then I have to be what? I have to be a person who acts upon the iman that they have. Right? So the self-talk is not enough. Right? The self-talk is just a process of training. It's you drilling yourself, right? Theoretically speaking. Now what you have to do, it's exactly like when you go to school and you learn the theory of a class, right? You learn, for example, theoretically that a certain equation works a specific way. But practically speaking, your teachers give you exercises where you keep doing what? Practicing that formula over and over and over and over, right? With so many different ways that the question is asked, you learn how many different ways you can still go back to that very same formula and apply it over and over and over. You get it? See how that works? Now once I understand that, then I'm going to say, okay, great. So now I understand what the Sheikh is telling me, but that requires certain tools. That requires attentiveness, right? That requires, therefore, monitoring yourselves, like we said. You can't monitoring yourself without being attentive to yourself. So you have to be attentive. You have to be in the now. What am I doing now? How am I feeling now? Right? You can't be thinking, and we said, in order for you to be in the now, what did the Prophet say, as is mentioned in Wasa'il al-Shia? He said, don't look, he doesn't say, don't look at the past. He says, don't think too much about the past, because it's done. Don't think about it, it's done. Learn from it, okay, and move forward. Move forward meaning what? Look so far down the future that you're worrying about the future and you haven't done what you need to do now? No. So he puts you in a state that's in between the past and in between the future. And the state that is in between the past and the future is the state of, say it together, now. Exactly. Okay. So if I want to make that action happen, and by the way, there are people that pay thousands of dollars a year to go listen to these motivational speakers that are telling you exactly what Islam is telling you, except that Islam is saying it to you in a more holistic manner. And these people are millionaires. And Ahlul Bayt all died martyred and poor. Subhanallah. I wonder if they marketed themselves as motivational speakers, right? If people would have listened, right? I wonder. See, valuing what you have is very important. Now we have these measuring sticks. It's not being left up to chance, you see? The Prophet tells me very specifically, he says, don't live in the past. Don't live in the future, right? You know how before an exam, like months before, you're thinking, well, you know, if I get an A plus in the exam, and I get A's in my assignments, then by the end of the year, you know, that's great. My GPA will be up to a 4.0. By the time 1 month passes or 2 months pass, right, and you're close to exam time, you're like, well, if I get an A on my exam and a B plus on my assignments, sounds familiar? Right? Then I'll have a 3.8, maybe a 3.9. That's not bad. It won't totally, you know, rock the boat. I'll still be able to get into med school, right? Then by the time you're a couple of weeks out from your finals, you're like, well, you know, if I get a B plus in my exam, and I got some B minuses and some C's already in my assignments, then maybe I can pull off a 3.5. Am I right? In my overall GPA. And now, what are you doing? You're negotiating, right? At the beginning, you're dreaming. Remember how I said the imagination plays a role, right? You're still imagining as you're coming closer to the finals day, right? But what are you doing now? Now you're negotiating, right? And then once you get to the night before and you're cramming, you're like, oh my God, maybe I should defer the exam. How do you defer again? And now you think about how you're going to lie about being sick. I hear a lot of people laughing. It sounds familiar then, right? Or, you know, and you start thinking about, you know, if I'm going to get a W if I withdraw now. Am I right? This is a problem. So then, in order not to live in the realm of imagination and have my desires go wild, right? I need to live in the now and do what I need to do now. There are action items for now. If I had done what I needed to do, instead of spending the time thinking about the future, right? And subhanAllah, how many times you go through this every single year, right? You're saying to yourself, this course, I'm not going to do what I did with the course last year. And then, come finals time, you're in the exact same spot. Why? Because we're habitual animals, right? We have behavioral patterns that are repetitive. We keep repeating them. So I have to be attentive to myself now. And that's why the team is important. So what I want to do is I want you to realize that in order to figure myself out, right? To figure out who I am, right? then I have to go through this entire process. I have to. And then to figure out why I need to do this, I had to go through that process of proving I need to do this because, this is why I was created. I was created to be obedient to Allah, to worship. This is not the end game, right? This is not the end of the chapter. The vision is to be in heaven. The mission is to do it on this earth. The core values have to match with what Allah tells me to do, right? And the objectives and the goals have to be met. And the action items and milestones have to be achieved specifically at specific times when Allah tells me to do it. You see? So, to understand the why I'm doing what I'm doing, right? I had to go through the process of understanding all the components that make my existence. I had to go through the process of understanding how it is that they interact with each other. I had to go through several processes before I could get to where I am now, to the point of submission, and then understanding how to become a mu'min. I understood iman, but now I want to know how to be a mu'min. A mu'min is a person of action. So, how do I do it? Right? I have to now, again, look introspectively within myself. Notice there is a lot of lonely time here. I'm sitting and I'm contemplating. You have to have the courage to be alone with yourself. I used to have a friend, when we would sit together in the car, he'd always talk. When we were walking down the street, he'd always talk. Right? When we're at the Jama, if there's any moment of silence, he has to talk. And it doesn't have to be about something beneficial. He just is uncomfortable with silence. So I said to him one day, I said, why do you feel the need to fill the silence? He's like, I don't know, I just feel like, I'm uncomfortable in the silence. So what we're telling you here, what Islam tells you, is revel in the silence. Find yourself the solitude. These pop psychologists, for example, in a book such as 7 Habits, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, if you haven't read it, it's a good read, right? They focus so much on sharpening the saw. What's sharpening the saw? Figuring out what your moral compass is, right? Where you fit in this universe, okay? And what is your role? That's all we did in these last few nights. And all I was doing was coaching you through it, that's all. Now what you have to do is now you have to literally sit with yourself, not with anybody else. Have the courage to switch off your device. Switch it off. Okay. And revel in the silence and the solitude. Prophet Muhammad ﷺ did this. Sallu ala Muhammad wa At least 2 months out of the year, he's in solitude, in meditation. That's how he knew who he was. That's how he knew how he would achieve his mission. Right? But the first thing he did in order to achieve it is he needed solitude and silence. You see? He needed to communicate with his Lord in that silence, to ask Allah, to ask the Unlimited. So revel in the solitude and the silence. Don't be afraid to hear the crickets. Right? Say, Subhanallah, now I have the opportunity to think about what Allah has given me to work with. That's the next part. Because see, remember how we said all of the faculties Allah has given me, according to the Treatise of Rights. Once I establish the greatest right upon me is the right of Allah, as we mentioned in the series in the month of Ramadan, right? وَأَمَّا حَقُّ اللَّهِ الْأَكْبَرِ عَلَيْكَ فَأَنْ تَعْبُدَهُ لَا تُشْرِكْ بِهِ شَيْئًا فَإِذَا فَعَلْتَ ذَلِكَ بِإِخْلَاصٍ جَعَلَ اللَّهُ لَكَ عَلَى نَفْسِهِ أَنْ يَكْفِيَكَ أَمْرَ الدُّنْيَا وَالْآخِرَةِ وَأَنْ يَحْفَظَ لَكَ مَا تُحِبُّ مِنْهَا. So, and ask for the greatest right of Allah upon you, for it is that you do what? That you worship Him, you're obedient to Him, that you do not associate any partner to Him at all. Right? And if you so do, then what will happen? If you do so with sincerity, the Imam Sajjad says, right? Allah wants us to know, if you do so with sincerity, that Allah will give you sufficiency in this world and in the hereafter. And whatever you want from this world, Allah will preserve for you. He says, but you can't do that without doing what? Without giving yourself its greatest right. وَأَمَّا حَقُّ نَفْسِكَ عَلَيْكَ. The next right, the second right, is the right of yourself. فَأَن تَسْتَوْفِيهَا فِي طَاعَةِ اللَّهِ. For it is that you dedicated to the worship of Allah. فَتُؤَدِّي إِلَى لِسَانِكَ حَقَّهُ وَإِلَى سَمْعِكَ حَقَّهُ وَإِلَى بَصَرِكَ حَقَّهُ. And therefore you give the right to the tongue, to the hearing, to the sight. Right? You don't use them for haram. إِلَى بَطْنِكَ حَقَّهَا عفوا إِلَى يَدِكَ حَقَّهَا إِلى رِجْلِكَ حَقَّهَا. Same with your hands and your legs. إِلَى بَطْنِكَ حَقَّهَا وَإِلى فَرْجِكَ حَقَّهَا وَتَسْتَعِينَ بِاللَّهِ عَلَى ذَلِكَ. Right? So you give the right to your hands, to your legs. You only use them in obedience to Allah. Same thing with your stomach. Same thing with your privates. And He gives you the secret at the end. وَتَسْتَعِينَ بِاللَّهِ عَلَى ذَلِكَ. And you seek aid from Allah in doing so. Which means what? You have to have a period of solitude where you can sit and have a conversation with Allah. And the best conversations you can have with Allah are conversations as Ahlul Bayt taught us. The conversations they would have with Allah. Wouldn't you pay millions of dollars just to know what Prophet Muhammad would say in Ghar Hira on Jabal al-Nur to Allah when he was in that state of meditation? If you want to know, then read the Sahih al-Sajjad. That's the how. That's literally the how. That's how I can get there. So I need discipline, attentiveness, right? I said attentiveness. I need to monitor myself. I need to do the self-talk. I need to be disciplined. I need to surround myself with people who are disciplined like me, who have the same goals, right? And the first action that I have to do is be in a state of solitude and be comfortable in it. And have the resolve and the comfort in my heart in knowing that Allah sees everything that I do. Just like Allah mentions in that verse at the very beginning, right? Allah sees everything that I do, and everything that I do is based on my intention, and my intention is based on my yaqeen, my certitude, and my certitude is the pillar of my faith. And therefore, the action has to be rooted in that process. So now if someone tells you, oh, Alhamdulillah, I went to Hajj. And then you see him, what? He went to Hajj and he didn't pay the debt that he was supposed to pay to the person that he owes. And that person didn't give him permission. But what does he do? Of course, we like to do this. Oh, you have to put it's no longer, brother. Now you have to put Hajj. What's your name? And he introduces himself. My name is Hajj Fulan. My name is Hajj Fulan. Don't get me wrong, right? It's great that you're a Hajj, but I'll remind you of one narration. Imam al-Baqir and Abu Basir. During the season of Hajj, Abu Basir cannot see. He's blind. So what does he say? He says, he hears the sounds of the Hajjaj, of the pilgrims. He says, Ma akthar al-Hajij. There are so many Hajjaj, so many pilgrims. Imam al-Baqir says, let me show you the reality of what is there. So he wipes on his eyes with his hands. So for seconds, he saw the reality of each one of those persons' worship. And he said, Ma akthar al-Dajij wa ma aqall al-Hajij. He says, there's so much noise, but there are so little pilgrims. So going to Hajj doesn't necessarily make me a Hajj, by the way, in the eyes of Allah, right? In the eyes of everybody else, maybe I would be considered a Hajj. But Allah knows what is within my heart. Allah sees my deeds. And not just Allah. The Prophet ﷺ and Ahlul Bayt, according to that very verse. According to that very verse. So, humbling yourself before Allah in a state of solitude. And therefore, Once you humble yourself, what are you going to do? The first thing you're going to think of, Brother Alex, is this. And I challenge you, because I know you guys are good people here. First thing you're going to think about is, what does Allah do? Allah on this earth placed so many things on this earth by His benevolence to guide us. And guidance is a service, right? Guidance is a service. So what's Allah really doing for us? He's serving us. That's why in the month of Ramadan, the Prophet tells us that Allah says that He is our host, we are His guests. Think about it. Which means what? That Allah is serving us. Allah wants us to be attentive. That's why in Hajj we say, Labbaik Allahumma labbaik. Oh Allah, we are at your service now. Allah serves us by giving us all of these instructions, Ahl al-Bayt, and all of these guidelines by His benevolence. So then what is it that I should do? I should first teach myself all of this information, and once I do, the first thing I'm going to do, وَالْعَصْرِ إِنَّ الْإِنسَانَ لَفِي خَسْرٍ. Such a simple verse, right? Such a simple chapter. Allah says, I swear by time, surely man is in a state of loss, except those who believe. So in solitude, right, with coaching, what happens? I believe, I learn. And then what happens after that? إِلَّا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا. What's after that directly? وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ. Right after that, you're going to do good deeds. Good deeds serve your mission. Right? Good deeds serve your mission. And you do them. You do these deeds. What determines them as good is that they match Allah's core values that He gives you. Got it? And then based on that, then you're a true mu'min. Because a mu'min does good deeds. They're the manifestation and the reflection of what's inside him of faith or her. You got it? But you can't do that without solitude. And so when times come that you are forced to be in solitude, like Muslim ibn Aqil, then what are you going to do? You're going to revel in that solitude. You're going to rise to the occasion. You're going to say, Labbayka ya Imam. What are you going to say? Labbayka ya Imam. What are you going to say? Labbayka ya Imam. Because that's what Muslim ibn Aqil did. What did he say? Labbayka ya Hussein. Isn't that what we say? That's what it means. To be able to revel in the solitude. The number of companions were numbered. Right? But what did they all say? They said, what? Labbayka ya Hussein. And when they said Labbayka ya Hussein, they really said Labbayka ya Allah. Labbayk Allahumma labbayk. That's why serving the believers, in a narration, Imam Ja'far al-Sadiq tells us, he says, إغاثة الملهوف من المؤمنين, helping those who are in need of the Muslims, is equivalent to 20 hajjs. 20. In another narration, he says it's equivalent to emancipating 1,000 slaves. So revel in the solitude. And know that in your solitude, you are not alone. You are with whom? With Allah and with Ahl Bayt. For they see everything that you do, according to that verse. So will you ever be alone? So now I have a deeper understanding, not only practically of what to do, but now I understand Muslim ibn Aqil. Now I understand the companions. Brothers and sisters, Muslim ibn Aqil, Ajarakumullah, was commanded by Imam Hussein alayhi salam. Imam Hussein had left Medina towards Mecca. He arrived at the beginning of the month of Sha'ban. He would stay during the month of Ramadan and Shawwal. But Imam Hussein alayhi salam, while he was in Mecca with all of his family around him, he'd tell Muslim, he'd tell him, I want to send you to Kufa ahead of all of us. I want you to ensure that you tell them that Imam Hussein just wants to make sure that you will truly give him your allegiance as promised. Muslim ibn Aqil didn't even flinch. He said, Labbayka ya Hussein. What did he say? Labbayka ya Hussein. Muslim ibn Aqil leaves Mecca in the middle of the month of Ramadan and he heads towards Medina. He bids all of his family farewell, brothers and sisters. He goes towards the grave of the Prophet and he bids the Prophet of Allah farewell. And then he picks up 2 guides to come with him and he would head out towards Kufa. Muslim ibn Aqil would face an arid terrain as he would go northeast all the way towards Kufa. Both scouts or guides that were with him would pass away. But Muslim ibn Aqil reveled in the solitude. Muslim ibn Aqil knew the mission, and with every breath that he took, what did he say? He said, Labbayka ya Hussein. And so, brothers and sisters, when he got to Kufa, people were happy to see him. He stayed in the house of Hani ibn Urwa, the great companion. First of all, he stayed in the house of al-Mukhtar. But then when Ubaydullah ibn Ziyad was made governor on Kufa and came to Kufa, he would then go to the house of Hani ibn Urwa. Ubaydullah ibn Ziyad was commanded to go to Kufa because al-Nu'man, the governor at the time, was too lenient with Muslim ibn Aqil. So Yazid hears of this, and Sir John, the Roman advisor to Muawiyah, who was advising Yazid, commanded him, he told him, your father commands you to place Ubaydullah ibn Ziyad as governor of both Basra and Kufa. And he'll take care of things. So when Ubaydullah ibn Ziyad goes into Kufa, Ubaydullah ibn Ziyad, very cunning man, wears white clothes and a black amama. And then he covers his face to make people think that he's who? An Imam al-Hussein. So that when he goes in, he gets an idea. He peruses how many people really are with an Imam al-Hussein and how many people are against Yazid al-Mal'un. People, when he comes in, they really think that he is Ubaydullah ibn Ziyad. But then one of his companions next to him, he announces, no, this is Ubaydullah ibn Ziyad. He finds out eventually that Muslim is staying in the house of Hani. How did he find out? Because there were many people who are coming to the house of Hani ibn Urwa to pledge allegiance to Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. He managed to get 18,000 pledges. Muslim ibn Aqil, ruhi lahu al-fida. Muslim ibn Aqil, when Ubaydullah ibn Ziyad finds out that he is in the house of Hani ibn Urwa after placing a spy by the name of Ma'qil, he goes out to give a speech to the people, telling them that an Imam al-Hussein will be coming soon. After this announcement, Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam noticed that the numbers of those in the crowd was dwindling. Why was it that that happened? Brothers and sisters, Ubaydullah ibn Ziyad infused false propaganda amongst the people. And what ended up happening is that a lot of the people got afraid. Why? Because the propaganda was that there were at least 40,000 coming from Sham and that they would arrive soon and they would kill and slaughter all those who stood with Muslim ibn Aqil. And so by the end of the speech, brothers and sisters, whom was left 4 Muslim but 30, the adhan was heard. They went into the masjid to pray. Muslim ibn Aqil, it's narrated, led the congregational prayer. He stood there. By the time he was done, he looked behind him as he perused the people. He found that there were only 10. By the time he got up, there was no one behind him, brothers and sisters. Ruhi lahu al-fida. And yet he still said, Labbayka ya Hussein. Now Muslim ibn Aqil was in the streets and the alleyways of Kufa, unfamiliar with this city. Muslim would go from alley to alley, from street to street, seeking refuge. This is the cousin of an Imam al-Hussein, Ruhi lahu al-Fida. The cousin of an Imam al-Hussein. No one to take him in. Seeking refuge, running from street to street, hearing the police and the soldiers coming after him. Finally, he gets tired. He sits at the doorstep of a woman called Tawa. He sits there, waiting, hoping that she may open the door. Finally, this woman opens the door. She sees him sitting at her doorway. She says to him, "Oh stranger, go back to your home. This is inappropriate for you to be sitting at my doorstep." Ruhi lahu al-Fida, Muslim would hear these harsh words from this old woman, and Tawa would close the door. She'd come back again only to notice him still there. She'd say to him, "Oh stranger, why are you still here? Did I not tell you that you need to leave?" He said to her, "Dear woman, I am a stranger in this land. I don't have a family and home here." She says to him, "You don't have a family here? Why? What brings you here then?" He says to her, "Ajarakumullah, I am Muslim ibn Aqil, the cousin of Imam al-Hussein. I am seeking refuge from the enemies of Allah. Will you give me refuge in your home, dear mother?" She said to him, "Of course." After giving him a drink of water, she would invite him in and put him up in a room. She says that Muslim ibn Aqil, every time she would go into his room, she would find him either praying or prostrating to Allah, either in prayer or in supplication. Ruhi lahu al-Fida. And then, brothers and sisters, her son would come into the house. Now Tawa had placed Muslim ibn Aqil in a room far away. But Bilal, her son, would notice that she would be coming in and out of this room. He would ask her, "Oh mother, who is in that room?" She knew that her son was an evil person. So she says to him, "I will not tell you, just leave me alone." Finally, he convinces her. He goes in, he sees that it is Muslim ibn Aqil. And then this evil man, he goes out to Ubaydillah ibn Ziyad. He knows that there is a bounty on the head of Muslim ibn Aqil. He tells Ubaydillah ibn Ziyad that Muslim is in the house of his mother. Muslim ibn Aqil then hears the sounds of the galloping horses. He tells the woman, "Dear woman, I must bid you farewell. I will not forget you. I will intercede for you on the day of judgment, and I will let Imam Hussein know." Then, brothers and sisters, Ajarakumullah, as Muslim was trying to leave the house of Tawa, the soldiers would come in. Ubaydillah ibn Ziyad sent over 70 men just for this one warrior. That tells you how great a warrior Muslim ibn Aqil was. And so he fights them. The fight would ensue and go out into the streets. He would kill over 40 of them. They would call for more men to come back and help fight against Muslim ibn Aqil. Ubaydillah ibn Ziyad, he would say, 70 men unable to defeat this one man. Umar ibn Sa'd, he would say, the companions of Imam al-Hussein, They are great warriors. And this Muslim Ibn Aqil is a great warrior. Do you think he is just a store owner in Kufa? So he sends more men and they're still unable to apprehend him. Finally they get on the tops of the buildings around and they stone him and they throw wooden sticks on him that are set ablaze. Finally he is tired, brothers and sisters, and a man by the name of Bukayr al-Ahmari, he has a sword fight with him. He cuts his upper and his lower lip, and then they say to him, we will give you immunity if you stop fighting us. Muslim was tired by that time. They all held him down and then they took him to the palace of Ubaydillah ibn Ziyad. In the palace of Ubaydillah ibn Ziyad al-Mal'un, what would happen then, brothers and sisters, would really break our hearts. Ubaydillah would have words with Muslim, and then he would command Bukayr to take him up to the roof of the palace, brothers and sisters, and execute him by decapitation. Muslim ibn Aqil would ask just for a last sip of water before he would take him up to the roof of the building. Brothers and sisters, as Muslim took that cup of water, as his lips would touch the water would be filled with blood. And he would spill the water. And then they would give him more water and he would try again. 3 times he would try and he'd give up. And he'd say, it seems as though it is not written for me to have a sip of cold water. As though it's telling of times to come, of what will happen to Imam Hussein. Finally, brothers and sisters, Bukayr al-Mal'un, after allowing him to pray 2 rak'ahs, he sees him crying. He says to him, why do you cry? He says to him, I cry for Imam al-Hussein, for he does not know how many people here betrayed him. Finally, they cut his head off, brothers and sisters, throw his body off the side of the building. They would drag him through the streets with Han ibn Urwa and then send their heads up to Ubaydillah ibn Ziyad, who would then send them up towards Yazid. Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. وسيعلم الذين ظلموا على بيت رسول الله إلى أي منقلب ينقلبون والعاقبة للمتقين. صلوات. السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين. All together. السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين وعلى الذين بذلوا وجههم دون الحسين ورحمة الله وبركاته. Oh Allah, we ask you and beseech you that you accept all that we have given today and have given in the past and will continue to give in these upcoming nights. Oh Allah, enlighten our hearts, Ya Allah. Make our hearts and our breaths shout, Labbayka Ya Hussein, Labbayka Ya Hussein, Labbayka Ya Hussein. Just like Muslim ibn Aqil, oh Allah, we ask you and we beseech you that you bestow your mercy upon our dearly departed. Ya Allah, that you give health to our sick. Ya Allah, that you repay or help repay the debts of all those who are in debt. Ya Allah, that you remove all oppression from this world, that you allow us, Ya Arhamar Rahameen, to be of those who are amongst Ahlul Bayt in heaven. Ya Arhamar Rahameen. Oh Allah, we ask you and beseech you that you support this center, this youth group, and all the programs that they do from today and in the future, inshaAllah. And akhir da'wana and alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. And we recite al-Fatiha on the soul of Sheikh al-Shibri and Amwat al-Mu'mineen wal-Mu'minat. ولتعجيل فرج ولي الله على الأرض. الفاتحة مسبوقة بالصلاة على محمد وآل محمد.
Ahsan, Sheikh. We thank you very much for the majlis and the lecture. That concludes our program for tonight. Thank you all for coming, and we'd like to see you all tomorrow, inshallah. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.